acknowledge what someone has done for us and to appreciate what someone is going to do for us. And Toastmasters in general, one of the best things about Toastmasters is a structure which is laid for everything. Be it educational content, be it format of the meetings, be it contests, be it even the leadership roles which you take. There is some degree of standardization given so that people have some template to adhere to and then explore their own credentials to create their brand. And one such initiative today is the installation ceremony, which is as formal and important as it can get, but very necessary for all club members to know the responsibilities which you can hold these people accountable for, and for they themselves to know what they can start doing and explore beyond what they can do for the club. So let's give a round of applause to both the ex-officers and the Another interesting musing is when the immediate past president finished a speech, he said super. And right at the same time, Suraj brought in the cake. So I was trying to wonder whether it was for a speech or for a cake. Same way, when the gavel was given to Suraj, he was like, okay, what should I do? Did I hit my hand?
Yeah, I was trying to do the order of the thing.
So what do we do with it? Was some other interesting musing I saw. And finally, do anyone ever in an installation ceremony say, no, I won't? All of them said, yes, I will. So interesting musings. And the reason why I say it is, the topic which I'm going to speak to you about is how to leverage Toastmasters experience. All of this, interesting musings, funny anecdotes, formal installation ceremonies which seems like, wow, what an affair it is, to camaraderie and friendships which we build, is the Toastmasters experience. And today I'm going to cover some aspects of it, not going to give you what you should do, but share perspectives on what I saw are commonly observed traits or things which people do, which make this platform, which I keep repeating to everyone whom I meet, is leveraged to an optimum extent. Eventually, all of us here, when we introduced, have some reason why we join a Toastmasters Club. Predominantly, probably we want to increase or become a better public speaker, our communication skills. But let's start with the first point, which was already touched upon, but very easily to relate to. What is the tagline of Toastmasters International?
Where leaders are made.
They don't say where communicators are made. It's where leaders are made. And Toastmaster Anirudh also mentioned that while Toastmasters is known for communication, while people join here to become a better communicator, the opportunities which are presented here makes us a wholesome individual, which we can proportionate to say leadership. Because leadership as a concept is at times considered cliche or at times perceived incorrectly to only say A, B, C is leadership. But to me, a wholesome individual, when has the right perspective towards the approach one takes on working with someone, working with oneself and influencing as a whole, is leadership. And for that, one aspect alone can never encompass growth for a leadership. Do you all agree? And which is where what I talked about to say there are numerous things which Toastmasters as a platform provide, and all of them put together is going to be a wholesome experience which will make you a wholesome individual, maybe a better leader, maybe. And to that aspect is where how best to leverage Toastmasters as an experience is not only with respect to meeting roles, but also with it. Not only with respect to speeches which you give, also with it. Not only with respect to contests which you may contest in, also with it, and also with other aspects like networking, friendships, camaraderie, conferences, education sessions, etc. So let's start with four. First thing first, meeting roles. Unfortunately or fortunately, there was a traditional educational track called CL, which had a formal credit for each of the meeting roles you would take. Meaning, if you take a timer role, you check off a responsibility towards a project, towards an educational award. In the new track, which most of you are already progressing on pathways, more often than not, a meeting role does not have a credit towards a project or for an educational award. Does that mean it is not important to be taking it up? And the reason why I touch upon it is, while Toastmasters, after years of experience, after piloting Pathways as an educational program in select few districts and then rolled it out in a face-to-face manner globally over a period of years, revamped the entire educational content and structure, they did not change the meeting format at all. Why do you guys think so? And one of the many of these meeting roles and traits are very directly but subtly influencing you to be a better person. One of the very important roles which I felt very excited the first time I got to know about Toastmasters Club was not that somebody was speaking there and getting evaluated, but there is a role called an R counter. What Anirudh talked about, that someone actually counted 72 hours, I have seen hundreds, to be honest. And more often than not, some of these subtlest roles which we take for granted are a huge influence in the way we communicate. Very frankly speaking, quite all of you, or most of you, would already be good communicators in your own right. You might have some strengths, you might have some weakness, you might be at different levels in your stages of communication, while you would have your own evaluation metric on what you want to grow towards. Which means, honestly speaking, there are people who might be as early in their starting point to say, I'm nervous just to stand on stage and speak, while there are people who can speak on and on, but needs a structure in their speech. While there are people who have a very structured approach, but need to do the subtle nuance, refinement to be an excellent contestant, for example, right? But having said that, then how does one club or the same club on the same platform cater to all of your needs? There was a question yesterday in an installation ceremony in my own home club, Morgan Stanley Orators, where people asked that, how do I overcome nervousness? Common question which is asked on how do I overcome nervousness when I come on stage. And a very, I would say profound answer, but a simple answer which is common for us is that people say take up roles. Simple example, as an SAA, you have to go on stage every day and introduce something to the club. And you have the opportunity to influence, word, and create a theme right at get-go. Which means you can come here and say 3 ground rules, ABC, please follow, back to the Toastmaster. I have seen people who have done a rap session in the start just to ensure that there is something different, and then give out the same 3 ground rules in a different manner. I have seen people who have sung a song, set the stage on how you want to follow the ground rules, but it's an opportunity every single time you come here for every single meeting. Same way, as a timer, as an R counter, not necessarily just a general evaluator, you have a script which you can follow, or a few minute window where you can address the audience on how they want to follow. If that is not a Lego building block for your masterpiece creation, what else is? So to me, the first and the golden step for someone to become a better Toastmaster in this Toastmaster journey is to get involved at every aspect of Toastmaster, starting with a meeting role. Starting with a meeting role, more so because I got this as a point looking back. In words of Steve Jobs, who says, you can connect the dots only looking back, which is where I said I will share perspectives, is as officers, more often than not, either your previous officer team or your current officer team, you would see that people take up roles in those last minute. You come to the meeting, you see what are the roles filled, and then you say, okay, this role is not there, I'll take it up. I used to do that for the first 1.5 years in my club, because we started with infancy where there was no club in Morgan Stanley in Bangalore. We created a club, we were 60 members strong, and there were a few sets of officer members who were supposedly driving the club, and we had to keep the meeting running so that there is meaningful value add seen by members, which in turn loops back to how well the club and members grow. And more often than not, when we took up those roles, at that time I did not see how proportionate it was to CL. I realized that I had completed a CL educational track, honestly speaking, much later than when I had actually completed it, because you end up taking roles multiple times. That I submitted the award, I think 3-4 months down the line, when I had already completed the track. But when now looking back, some of the aspects which now tie me to be a better communicator was those small incremental steps which I took made me become much more confident in each of those areas. And now when I have stopped taking those roles, the second part of the perspective is, I see how rustic I can get. Simple things, feedbacks which were given via the R-counter role to say I use right more often than not, to seek acknowledgement from an audience, has creeped in more so recently when I have stopped taking those roles to observe it myself. The second perspective which I will share is from Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers book. How many of you have heard about Malcolm Gladwell in our class? You have. So in a very quick summary, and just to take relevant points out of this, there were three things which he said which I think is applicable for us. One is the 10,000 hour rule. Two is your upbringing makes a very big difference on where you would leave an impact. And three, you need to find meaning in the work which you do for you to be able to grow and become successful there. These are the three main summaries I'll abstract and say why it is important here in terms of leveraging your Toastmasters experience. First, no matter what you want to do, if you simply have a ground rule that you did that for 10,000 hours, you are going to be good at it. I'm not saying you're going to be ranked 1 in it. That is relativistic comparison. But in your own absolute sense of gauging if you have grown, if you have done something for 10,000 hours at the minimum, you're going to be good at it. Two, our upbringing has a direct, I would say subtle but a direct impact on the place where you're growing. Now, what does it relate to in Toastmasters? The fact that you have chosen to invest your time, your effort, and also money in a forum like Toastmasters means that you are trying to put yourself in a community of like-minded people, where people, though in different stages of their learning are present, are looking towards one common goal, growing in their communication and in turn their leadership capabilities and roles. Which means if you are in a fraternity which influences your mind already subconsciously, you are going to be in a road track towards success. The third and the last is meaningful purpose. If you are in a place where you find meaning in the effort which you want to take, only then would you be able to want to take a small task, an effort, a project, and probably an educational award, or a small task, effort, and probably a contest and a prize. Only then will we grow. Which means if you don't relate to it, you would not be even motivated or incentivized to take an action in it. Same holds here. If you don't find meaning in those small meeting roles, you would never take it. If you only find meaning in an educational track in pathways, which means take up a speech or take up an evaluator role, then you would not be incentivized to even take that small step. But knowing that subtle difference is going to have a direct plus an indirect ramification in your growth, and a constant reminder is necessary for us to leverage those opportunities. Otherwise, we couldn't. Make sense? Now, the third aspect which I would want to cover in terms of leveraging Toastmasters experience is speeches itself, specifically in terms of pathways. More often than not, given that in pathways, we already have a very focused education structure. Earlier, there was a communication track and a leadership track. Now, there is a track for visionary communicator, there is a track for innovative planner, there is a track for dynamic leadership, and there is a track for effective coaching. Which means the education track is already structured towards a focused skill set which one can learn. But as a part of the objectives of each of the projects you would give, sometimes, more often than not, the objectives are vague to satisfy objectives of the project and individual objectives collectively together. And this is very important for us to understand and then prepare accordingly. What do I mean by it? For a track, for a project, for example, which simply asks you to go and give a 5 to 7 minute speech, but does not ask you to focus on a body language, voice modulation, how you say it, or in terms of researching and structuring a topic, that 5 to 7 minute speech can be anything. While individually for you, the goal might be, I want to be a better speaker in terms of my body language. Individually for you, you want to be a better speaker in terms of a voice modulation. Or individually for you, I want to choose the right kind of topics where I can leave audience mesmerized, which is choosing the right point and getting to the point, might be your individual goal. The ability to satisfy project objectives while having the ability to see how you can incorporate your individual goals while doing the project is very important, which comes down to speech writing. How you should be choosing your speech content and the structure and the delivery to be able to satisfy both your goals. And more often than not, I have seen people get confused when they try to mingle both. Which is where, one, having a mentor go through your speech and give you a third person perspective. And I'm not saying a guidance or only a seniority perspective, because a mentor needn't necessarily be relatively compared to is better than someone better than you. But having a third person perspective to look at the objectives of the project you are trying to satisfy, look at what your own individual personal growth needs are, and then whether in each of the projects you are able to balance both together to grow to from where you are to where you want to be is very important. And in that aspect, I very strongly want to recommend mentorship and a third person perspective to be leveraged. Taking a step back, in terms of Toastmasters experience, one, I talked that every meeting role and every I would say officer role which you take has a profound impact in your journey in Toastmasters. That is not the only point. Second, your speeches and the content of the speeches which you take and deliver should have a right mix of balance between satisfying an education track and satisfying your personal goal, for which you can leverage mentorship. Third, stepping beyond your club roles and your club meeting roles and speaking roles and leveraging this platform as a networking platform, a platform where you get to form friendships and camaraderie, and also observing and learning more so from contests, conferences and education sessions would make it a sealed deal and a wholesome package. Taking a pause here, any questions? So,
at times when you're about to go for a speech, you're not sure on what to speak. I mean, I just want you to give a brief idea about what are the pointers on which a person can look to actually go for a speech.
Okay. So, speech writing and how to draft impactful speeches is a session in itself. But if I have to very strongly abstract it in a succinct manner, is FIP. This is what we had gained from veteran Toastmasters when we started our club. When you write a speech, what are you trying to do? You're trying to go share something which really you felt connected to, and you want to make the audience also connected back with you. The best of the speeches have been done very well when you have been able to deliver what you intended to as well, and the audience also felt really connected to your speech. If either of this didn't happen, then your speech has not been communicated and has that impact across. Now, how would you do that from your own end? You need to first have a topic which you really related to, which you were able to think down and articulate in a specific manner, and then deliver in the manner which you visualized. And the second is the message or the content of the article or the speech is relatable or at least acceptable by the audience. More often than not, the topics which you would find inspiration from are family, interests, and profession, which is what I gave in a very succinct manner to say FIP. Because if you cannot give a soulful speech about a very close relationship you're a part of, a mom, or a relationship which you're a part of, if you are not able to speak with passion on a topic which is of interest to you, which you probably invest a lot of time researching already on, or if it is a topic which you're already spending a lot of time of your life, which is a profession, where else will you find more relatable topics? So shortest answer to that is FIP for sources of information. The second part I already covered in the beginning to say how you deliver it. You feel so connected to it that when you deliver it comes across as a passionate delivery. Did that?
Yes.
Okay. So the three parts which was mentioned in the introduction was roles, speeches, and contests. Now roles I've already covered very strongly on. Yeah.
So how important you think contests are? What I feel personally is basically I can do the speeches here, like why should I really go and compete in competition and then so how?
I'll start by answering your question to say, should I contest or not?
Yes.
Is a short way of.
The shortest.
And the answer is, the shortest answer to this, why not, is the way I would approach it rather than why should we contest. And the reason is simple. One, unfortunately for us, from a Toastmasters platform perspective, we used to have 2 contests in a year. There was a humorous speaking contest and an evaluation contest. And then we used to have international speech contest, literati, and table topics contest, which is each of them in a different format. impromptu speaking versus international speech contest, which is a 5 to 7 minute speech, or humorous speaking contest. Now it is gone. We don't have contests twice in a calendar year. We have it only once, which is in the upcoming coronation season. Which means if you don't contest now, you're going to contest 1 year later. That's the first and shortest answer on why you should be contesting. The second is, like I said, Toastmasters as a platform has structure for everything. There is an education content, there is a meeting format, there are roles, there are contests, there are education sessions, there are those sessions which are conferences, etc., etc. Each one of these have one or many inputs towards what we are trying to groom into. Contest to me is one of the most steepest learning curve data point which we can leverage out of Toastmasters, which is to me personally. Because I joined Toastmasters for contests. I had a certain degree of confidence that I would speak well, and when I joined, I really wanted to contest and win. That was the cliched mindset with which I joined contests. But when I joined contests and actually took part in it and contested, one, I was humbled by what I can learn, and two, I was also amazed with the subtlest of nuances which contest winning folks incorporate year in and year out in their speeches. So the second part of the answer to your question is, one is why not, two is the observations which you can get from your fellow contestants in the subtlest of changes which they incorporate, not for an objective. Here they're not just saying I'm going to give a speech which incorporates body language. They're going to give a speech which incorporates everything. And if you see contestants, they contest year in and out. The same set of folks would contest, and they would have refined one aspect slightly more than what they did last year, because that is their educational goal in contests. And when you observe that across 10 contestants, not one, across 10 contestants, how do you write a speech which is so influential? How do you leverage your body language which changed from this manner to this manner? How impactful do you use the voice modulation in which aspect of your speech? And how well do you think in terms of even curating a content towards a message? Are some of the examples which you learn not from one but multiple contestants. So again, taking a step back, why not? And what you can learn by others' experience than yours. And the third aspect is, from your own perspective, you are probably utilizing your club platform or your nearby club platform for your own mental growth in your educational track, which means I want to become a better speaker, I want to become a non-nervous speaker, I want to become a much better leader by observing different club cultures, etc. But when you go contest in contests, you yourself are incorporating all of this together in one go. You are trying to create a personal brand on stage. That one 5 to 7 minute speech is your personal brand. That one 5 to 7 minute speech gives the way in which you showcase your showmanship and your message. If that is not a steep learning curve, there isn't none. And the last point is, you would not get that via any of the other elements too. I said each of the elements of Toastmasters has some direct impact. This impact of contest, you will not get it in your club. Is the reason why you should contest. So even though the contest as a format would effectively choose one out of many who can proceed ahead, but the fact that you are one of the many is giving you the opportunity to be that one, so as well give it a try.
So now coming to the pathways. In the traditional program, we had learning, we had education sessions and learning and everything. We need to know more of the information. So that was the challenge in the traditional program. But in pathways, I think that has gone down because it has a lot of material to learn, where you have a lot of online sessions. So just wondering about the learning part, because once I'm done with the project, I feel that I need to learn more and learn more skills.
Honestly, that is a good thing, that if you feel you want to learn more. But what I would like to highlight is, for people who, this is more so for people who have seen all the tracks. I am a huge fan of the traditional track, and let me put that down right at the forefront, to say that the traditional track of education program which Toastmasters had was for decades. And it was a popular program which made people join Toastmasters Club. Nothing wrong with it. So we are not trying to compare that to say this is better or this is it. The only focus which Pathways gives to you is a structure towards a focused skill set, as simple as that. And the education program, projects, levels have been structured in a manner where if you go in the direction, you pick one. If you feel there are multiple things which you need to imbibe, right? For example, I need to be a better communicator, I'll take a presentation mastery tab, and I also need to be a better planner, I'll take the innovative planning track. For example, there are tracks towards it. The second thing is, stop comparing the traditional program to pathways program, because the CC program had a structure towards how you should approach the first fundamentals for speaking, which might be there in presentation mastery, which will not be there in innovative planning. So if you see this is the way you are used to, and probably something which you got there is not there as an immediate level 2 project here, am I missing out on some fundamental, is not the right evaluation. And lastly, I again strongly repeat, because this I see is coming across in multiple clubs, which is where I shared here, is trying to have that outlook in segregating your project objectives and your individual objectives. I repeat it again. If you think that as a part of the project you want to give the best possible speech, but the objective of the project is to communicate your leadership style, the objective is to actually have that focused time in thinking about having your own perspective on your leadership style and curating a speech which you can give it as an example to your club on what you thought your leadership style was because of this incident, during which you can incorporate an excellent storytelling ability, an excellent voice modulation, a body language by enacting it. But those are two different objectives. Having that perspective to get that clarity in approach is needed in pathways. Yes.
When we are speaking with another person, let's say consider first day, I met one new person, I spoke with them, and we spoke for a 1 minute, like where you from, where you do, and what you do. I'll meet again next day, same person. So I want to know, like, if that person is interested to talk with me, or how can he make him like so interested so that it will be mutual understanding between both two, so that it will be like next.
See, I'll abstract your question again to make it generic for the audience and for you. One is how to create a personal brand so that you come across as a person who is relatable and approachable for others. That is your takeaway for it. And how do you find the right kind of people whom you would want to connect with for your takeaway? I will put it in that manner because it makes more relevance to everyone too. One, platform, outreach, network. Use this platform. It is there. There is a club, there is an area, there is a division, there is a district, there are conferences. Only when you go there, for your own sake, you will be able to see who does well in what direction. Someone you would find an exemplary interpersonal communicator, someone whom you would find as an excellent public speaker, someone you would see as an excellent MC, someone whom you would see as a leader who takes leadership roles, delegates responsibilities, get things done over a period of time. That is first required for you to know who are the people whom you can tap into. Without knowing, you would not be able to. That is the first point on you knowing whom to reach out to for what information you want. If you're already an excellent communicator, probably you'll reach out to someone who's an excellent leader to get mentorship from. The second part is building your own brand. How do you make yourself interesting? And one of the points which came across, taking a digression, is when people asked, why do you feel nervous when you have to come on stage? More often than not, is fear of judgment. What I'm talking to you about is also creating a personal brand, is in terms of not thinking people are judging you, but having that confidence and aura to say you already have a brand, you have done your best to project it, and hopefully you have that perspective and clarity to make sure the audience got it too. That will only come with practice of all of this over a period of time. I elaborated a lot about what is brand building, but what is an end result to it is by coming on stage. Every time someone comes on stage and takes a Toastmaster of the Day role, and if they are known as an over-energetic person, that's a brand which they have created. It's a positive brand too, might be a negative brand too. But what brand you create is based on what effort you take in it. And the second aspect of it is, you should start doing more of it in a comfortable and a safe environment where you can fail, where the judgment is not going to impact you, and then leverage learning out of it in another offline platform. Meaning, if you fail here being an MC to evoke interest, and you do that again and again in a place where people will anyway clap in your club because you are a TMOD for that day, and become better, then when you next host a town hall for a technology event where your chief technology officer visits India, there you are creating a brand for your perspective, and here you're using the platform as a learning. So investing and doing more in a place which is safe and then leveraging the learning somewhere else will help you build your brand. Short answer, but there's more to it.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, I would like to leave you with a small message. We all drive cars, and there is a perspective which people tell you that you need to drive it more often so that you don't lose touch. 1. 2. We all have specific roles. We want to do more roles, but we cannot. I am a technologist. I am not a doctor. I am not an actor. I am not an engineer. I am not a communication professional who is probably being a life coach to someone. But I can be all of it, or I can get learnings of all of it by being in a forum and observing from their pluses and trying to think through of what their minuses I wouldn't want to incorporate. So if I combine these two, involve to evolve is the summary which I can capture from what I heard before, which I take it very seriously. One of the previous district directors of Toastmasters said, the more you get involved, the more you get evolved, which I can tie it back to say, the more you keep driving a car, you will never feel rustic ever driving it again. Same way, the more you get involved in all of the avenues of Toastmasters, the more you will evolve in each of these places, and you will definitely see benefit out of it. Second, because you are not able to take all of it in one go, try to also look, observe, judge for your sake, not to judge others, to see what you can take as pluses and negatives of people across the room, because in that 1 hour, then you are learning more than just by doing. Thank you. Back to the Toastmaster.